Oh, of course. So what's the date today? Is the 13th or the 14th?
It is
December 14th, possibly?
Today's, let me just double check. 13th today, December 13th.
December 13th. And what was your name and reg number?
My name is Chris Boardman. Our current reg number is Romeo 0241.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm Dryden Perry, just so for the record. And we're here today to talk about a complaint that I made against...
Yes, actually a number of them. I think we've got 4 in total.
Four complaints, and the officers in question are Chetwynd and Pottie.
That's correct. And then the other, the one of the complaints is an unknown officer. That was in relation to the complaint regarding
the individual that was being arrested outside of the NSLC.
No, this was when you, I'll just get the date here.
Yeah.
March 14th, 2022, and that was in regards to someone from the Yarmouth Rural Detachment that was driving a vehicle that didn't have a valid license plate on it. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So that one I don't have a specific...
Yeah, because I didn't have a specific officer. I just had a car number. They weren't present at the vehicle at the time.
I did try to figure out who that was, but...
and I have since filing the complaint, I have noticed that vehicle is in compliance now.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
I can certainly say I did some checking on the provincial system because of your complaint. What that did is that made us bring the vehicle back.
I hope so.
And it did. Yeah, we actually because I think on the 14th is when you made that complaint, and we renewed it on the 14th.
Because the officer, like, I understand commercial driving, and the officer's supposed to do a pre-trip inspection.
That's right.
And that is included in the pre-trip inspection.
Yeah.
So that officer should have never driven that vehicle on the road, and it's their responsibility as the driver, right? Just as like a transport truck driver or anything, it's their responsibility.
Just like if you hopped in a vehicle today. And
it's my responsibility. Exactly. Like you're responsible for doing the pre-trip inspection, and that is clearly a violation of provincial and federal law. So I thought
for sure.
At least provincial, right? So I thought that was a matter that definitely needs to be addressed, and I think the officer should have been talked to about pre-trip inspections and the importance of them, because it's not only the legality of the vehicle, it's the safety of the vehicle. Because clearly if they didn't notice the sticker on the back of the license plate, well, they wouldn't have noticed a flat tire, or they wouldn't, because they didn't go around the vehicle. They didn't check the vehicle, right?
I totally agree with you, Mr. Perry, for sure. So before I get into all these the specific complaints, I just want to kind of explain. Just a little bit about myself. I spent 25 years in the Rcmp as a regular member.
Okay. Yep.
And then retired at the rank of sergeant. And then after that, I joined on a contract basis as a reserve constable.
Okay.
So and I've been doing that for 10 years now. I've had a lot of experience dealing with investigating Part 7 complaints, Part 7 of the Rcmp Act complaints. And in fact, for about a year and a half, that's all I did for my job. So I'm not saying that to toot my horn or anything like that. I just wanted to let you know.
Of course, a bit of background and
that so I'm pretty familiar with Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. So one of the first things that I do, and I have to thank you for the amount of detail you put in your complaint, because what that did was it allows me to glean from that the actual allegations against the officers.
And that's why I try to always attain as much information on the scene as possible. Like, it's not that I need your reg number, right? No. It helps.
Oh, for sure.
It helps.
Well, what it does is the situation where we had the license plate issue, you know, we don't know exactly. So,
right? So it's
if somebody identifies themselves, then you know who they are.
Exactly. And it's just very easy, like, especially with certain names, it's hard to remember names at times, but with a reg number, it's a number, it can be written down, bam, they know exactly who it is.
And we each have one number, and it's unique to
Exactly. It's not like there's 10 Chetwynds in the force, and they got to figure out which one, right? They know exactly that one. It's like my social insurance number, right?
Exactly. So, so what after I review your information that you provide, from there I come up with the allegations from your information. So then I set out, and this form that I'm talking about here it's called a 4110.
Okay.
And it's basically the public complaint form.
Yeah.
And so then what I do is I meet with the complainant and go over that allegation just to make sure it accurately reflects your complaint. Yeah. And then from there, one of the provisions of Part 7 of the Rcmp Act, there's a requirement upon the investigator to attempt to resolve the complaint informally. Yep. And then if that doesn't work, then I proceed to an investigation.
Now I've dealt with this process. Clearly, I've dealt with this process before.
And I was going to say that you're familiar with the process.
So I can speak on that right now. Yeah. I'm past the informal decisions. Every time I've made an informal decision with a police officer, it gets brushed off. It's a nothingness. There's nothing that ever comes of it. The officers are told they didn't do anything wrong, and they keep acting the same way that they do on their daily basis. And this is from experience from interactions that I've made complaints and had interactions with those same officers, and they still act in the same way. So I think informal at this point is pointless because the informal process doesn't work for the individual. The individual doesn't take it as seriously.
Right. And if after you give me a chance to explain what my suggestion for an informal resolution for each of the four, then if you still feel strongly about it, then I totally understand that. But I think after I lay it all out there, I'm hoping that
and we'll see. Like I'm not going to say no. Obviously, I don't know what you're going to tell me. Fair. I don't know what the potential agreement is that could come up. So when we cross that bridge, absolutely. Like I'm all ears for it, right? It's just I want you to understand my previous experience and how I feel about that informal process. I've only ever had one that's been valuable to me. And
I think sometimes a lot of it depends on the quality of the informal resolution, and obviously there has to be a follow through.
Exactly, and that's been a lot of it. Is like I've made these informal agreements, and then the officers have been unwilling to perform their end, and at that point the file is completed. And they just throw it away, and it never gets brought up again because it's listed as we've made an informal agreement, and then the civilian review board won't look at it. So it stonewalls me. Yeah. It stonewalls me because I can be lied to. Right?
Yeah, and certainly if after hearing my my pitch, I guess if you want to call it that, on the informal process and what I've laid out, if after that you still want me to fully investigate,
and we'll cross that bridge when we cross it. Yeah.
So what we can do now that I kind of explained that process to you, and I appreciate the fact that you're well versed in this process. I'll go through each complaint and each allegation and just let you see what I've got here for an allegation, and then I can explain what I suggested for an informal resolution. And we can go from there. Why don't we start with that, the license plate?
Yeah, the one that we spoke about previously. Yeah.
So here's I'll just let you.
Yeah, sure. It's been it's quite dated at this point.
Dated, yeah, but that's kind of how I laid it out, is in the allegation department there.
So this isn't the license plate. This is Chetwynd's allegation.
Oh, sorry.
So that one is one's not that one.
Yeah. I apologize.
That's fine. Oh, that's fine. Don't worry. You got four of them there, man. Like
there we go.
They're all black and white. They all look the same.
Yeah.
So on or about the 14th day of March, after Dominicus 2022, at near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, the unknown RCMP officer from Yarmouth Rural Detachment did display driving irregularities by operating an unregistered vehicle contrary to Part 7 of the RCMP Act. So my complaint, it's not in Dayton, it was in Yarmouth.
Okay, well we can change that easy enough.
It was in the public parking lot behind what's the word? Sip Cafe.
Okay.
And I had made the complaint to the town detachment.
Okay.
And they had informed me that it was a rural detachment vehicle.
Fair enough.
So that's why it's generated as rural detachment. And I made the complaint from Dayton. So that's why I assume that it says Yarmouth. Right, and do you need me to initial?
Just want to initial that one change, just so we're both on the same page there.
So that would be that. I had included the car number. I had included the license plate number, I think. I think I included the location that I had seen it, which I had stated was the public parking lot behind in the Alma Square area of Yarmouth.
Sure.
And yeah, so that seems accurate, other than, like I said, where it was, right?
And who was operating.
Exactly, because I have no idea.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me just, I got the same 2 pages there. So this is what I had suggested for an informal resolution. I mean, obviously, the day that you made the complaint, we brought the vehicle back into compliance, which obviously
now, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
But since then, I went into the Yarmouth Town Detachment one time, and I was filming, and I went and noticed that there was still some more license plates. It was particularly a van that wasn't in compliance, and I went in to inform the staff of that, and just to gather to see what information was provided by the public. And Sandra Wall actually threw me out and locked the door in the middle of the day and threatened to arrest me because I was filming, and they didn't do anything, and that was well after this incident. So I hope that it's being resolved.
Right. Did you make a complaint in relation to that?
Yeah, I've made a complaint, and I haven't heard anything back. I tried to call and asked to speak to a supervisor. The secretary put Sandra Wall on, who just laughed at me and then hung up the phone.
If you want, after we're done today, I can talk to the town detachment and see where that's...
And there's videos of all of this. Like I have videos, so we have an objective view, right? Like I could tell the story as best as I can, and she can tell it how she wants. But there's a video of the whole situation of me arriving at the police station without talking to anybody, entering the building, and her throwing me out and doing everything that she did, and then me leaving. So it's the complete unedited, unchanged interaction that you could watch.
And that complaint, did you do that through the
CRTC? It's the only way to make a complaint.
Oh no, there's a different way as well, but
I've asked, and they always tell me. Staff Sergeant Pittman has told me that the only way is through the Civilian Review Board. I've asked for complaint forms internally. I've never been provided any. There's never been provided any to me in the offices or anything like that. So if there is, I've been completely unaware, and I've been misguided by officers in the past.
Yeah. So essentially the process is the same form that we're looking at here, the 4110, and that's something that, you know, like if you came to the counter and told me you want to make a complaint about one of the officers, I can take that information right there. Or you have the choice. You can do it through the
and see, I've always been told I can't do that. By every single detachment I've been to make a complaint, I've been told that I need to do this on the Civilian Review Board. I need to fill it out online. I've never been provided a form.
All I can say,
and I know I appreciate you giving me that information, because honestly, I've been filming the police for a while. I've been involved in activism for some time. I would say probably 10 years, and you're the first officer to ever tell me that I can get a paper form at a detachment.
Yeah, and I what I've done in the past is I've sat down with the complainant and filled out the form, with them, in their presence, and then gone on to investigate it or informally resolve it if that was how the complainant wanted. So,
which seems standard, like that you would be able to take a complaint, because it's just this the Civilian Review Board just takes it and then provides it back to you. It's just a compilation of this form. So it would make sense that you're able to generate this form and skip a step, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And it's because it's the same investigation process.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so if you want, I can check on the status of that complaint, and I can get back to you.
I would like that just through email. Email is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Sure.
Just for right now, it's the busy time of year. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. No problem. I'll check on the status of that complaint and let you know.
Yeah, because
Do you remember what date that was?
Oh, I'd have to look.
That's fine.
I'd have to look.
I can easily find it. So.
It was warm enough that I was wearing a sweater outside, so.
All right.
It's been a little while.
Okay, so we'll just jump back to this to this complaint here. Just have a read through there. These 2 points that I make out there, and
what does IC stand for?
Oh, it's in the non-commissioned officer.
I know what non-commissioned officer
in
is.
charge.
In charge. Okay. So
that would be like for Yarmouth Rural
like
Detachment
staff sergeant or
exactly.
Okay, so that the non-commissioned officer in charge of the RCMP Rural Detachment put in place a diary date system to ensure that all vehicle registrations for detachment vehicles are renewed 1 month prior to their expiry date. That the NCO in charge of the Yarmouth Rural Detachment send out correspondence. It's still legible. Send instead of sent.
Oh, no, it should be send. Yeah.
It's like making a statement.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Send out correspondence to each member of the detachment, reminding them that as the driver of the motor vehicle, it is their responsibility to conduct a pre-trip inspection of their police vehicle to ensure that the registration is current. I think it should include that their vehicle is in compliance with provincial law. Because registration isn't the only compliance, right? There's many other things, like if they have a cracked windshield or other things, like there needs to be a record, an objective record that is sent away so these vehicles can be repaired and are maintained in a safe, orderly fashion to be on the roads, because these vehicles... Yeah.
Does that sound all right there?
In compliance with provincial law. Yeah, for sure. Because I think these vehicles need to be safe. Yes. Because they have an expectation to exceed the speed limit, to carry vulnerable individuals and keep them safe in the matter of transportation, as well as keep you guys safe.
That's right. So, is there anything else that you could, like, if you were to agree to an informal resolution in relation to the complaint regarding...
I think for that, if there was a policy change that stated that they need to be in compliance with, that's a perfect informal.
Yeah.
That's fine, because
and then everybody's got a record of getting an email
because
from the
I guess
NCO.
Being an informal resolution when it comes to the department in a whole is fine. Okay. Right? It's when individual gets a little harder.
I can and I'll attempt to address those.
And that's fine. Like I said, I'm totally open ears. Okay. Like we can.
So because we don't know who that particular officer was, that I've got an unknown RCMP member here, and on this, so this is basically.
So could we add one more thing then?
What were you thinking?
The officer is unknown. Yeah. Could we make our best effort to identify this officer and give that particular officer extra training on that?
Yeah. Now I've narrowed it down to like 3 particular officers that were working that day. Yeah. But I don't have any. There's no record of who was in that particular unit versus.
Now I think you should maybe ask all 3 of those officers, and I think as an individual who did something wrong, that individual should come forward. And if all 3 of them, if nobody comes forward and admits it, I don't see the problem in giving each one of them a day's no paid training.
That type of like without knowing which of the 3 officers it would be, it would be difficult to punish someone.
Well, you would give them all the opportunity. It's like the military. Like if I don't make my bed in the military and my whole barrack says I don't know who did it, we all get punished. Yeah,
I mean, and that is
because it's professional standard, right?
Yeah.
If you want to maintain a professional standard and your commanding officer, your CO, is asking you a direct question, and you lie about it, well then you're not only in defiance of your commanding officer, you're in defiance of the whole paramilitary system. Because rank and file is important. That's why rank and file is there.
I agree with that to a certain point, but when it comes to
and I understand like the not knowing. Yeah. So I think maybe let's find out who did it, ask them, right? And somebody should admit to it, right? Because that's professional standards. And then if nobody admits to it, well, we know it's a thing, we know it happened, right? Yeah. So somebody's lying. So at that point, it should almost generate a new situation for you, right? That you should want to be aware of. Because if an officer is committing crimes, even if they're small, right? The ones that we catch are small. Maybe the ones that we don't catch are big, right? So it creates a trend of an officer who may be pulling individuals over for the same thing that they're not in compliance with.
I understand. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from there. Let me just see if I can add this one here.
Like, I think it would be valuable because an email is an email, right? I miss emails all the time.
Yeah.
You know, or I don't understand the importance of the email and I don't read it as I should, right? And that's just human nature. We all do that. So I think that if this individual got spoken to and said, "Hey, this was a crime," right? Like, this was a ticketable offense. It's not a criminal issue, but it's a provincial traffic infraction that you or anybody else is subject to, and you were in violation of it. This can't happen again, right? Like, having that conversation, at least that individual knows, right? Instead of skimming through an email and possibly missing it, and then later down the road it happens again and they say, "Oh, well, I wasn't aware," right? I didn't see that email, because there's always the plausible deniability with police officers.
Right.
Like, if a police officer says, "I didn't know," well, then it's just water under the bridge, right? Or that's how it seems. Because, like, there is a level of qualified immunity. You guys are allowed to make mistakes, but then when it comes to the citizens, if I didn't know my sticker and I got pulled over and I said that to the officer and I said, "Oh, I didn't know, man, I really didn't know." Well, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
That's true.
Right?
So I've said that line a few times.
Exactly.
Correct.
And it doesn't apply to you guys. It doesn't apply to you guys. So I think it needs to be made aware to that individual.
I will do my best to
I think you will. I think you will.
Yeah. And if you're okay with that, I added that one in there, and then follow up with that particular officer if I can identify them.
Yep.
Now, so that your choices here on this next portion are that you consent to an informal resolution, or that you are not consenting.
I'll consent to this informal resolution. I will. Yep.
Okay.
And I'll sign and date that for you.
That for you. Yep. Very good.
What did we say? It was the 13th?
I thought we said 13th. I mean, just 13th.
12th month and the 13th day.
At least it's not Friday.
Close enough, though.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And then after I take care of these steps here, then on this form I attest that all the commitments made in reaching this informal resolution have been carried out, and that the complainant has been so informed. So I can let you know by email.
Yep. Of how that goes over in the future, however long it takes, right?
Yeah, and that I've done what needs to be done.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And the rest of this portion here, that's just withdrawal of complaints, so that's not relevant. So, okay, so that one is that one. I'll just start with them in the order they're in.
Sure.
So this is the incident dated the 29th of July, 2023.
Okay.
And that was what I came up with from an allegation there.
So allegation number 1, on or about the 29th day of July, after Dominicus, 2023, at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, that Constable Chetwynd did display improper attitude towards Dryden Perry, contrary to Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. Yep.
Does that sound accurate? Because sometimes we're limited. They give us on this Appendix B of this form. It's it just lays out all the different.
Like what could potentially be the allegation,
exactly.
like the formal name for the allegation. Yep.
So let's see here. Oh, I forgot to get you on that first one. So this was just circling back to the.
I need to sign it to say that my complaint, like the listed is accurate.
That's right. And what it says there, I'll just read it for you, just so you know. 1213 is says I'm the complainant in this public complaint matter. I've reviewed the details of my complaint described in this part of the document, which is the allegation part, and the information contained herein is complete, true, and accurate to the best of your knowledge.
Yep.
And I'll sign that one as well, and date it as well. I just forgot that section there, so I'll put that one back. We'll go back to so this is the one that you just read. Yep. And if you're okay with that, the way that sounds,
I am. Yep.
I'll get you to do the same on that one, and I'll sign there as well.
12, 13. Yeah, that's
Perfect.
right.
Yep.
And that's all going to change here soon. Going to be
Yep.
I'm going to be writing 2023, and it's going to be 2024 for 2 or 3 months.
I'm
You wait.
I'm forever doing the same thing.
I'm awful with it.
Okay. I think looks like I did make a mistake on this one. So, some of these were very similar in
verbiage and things.
Yeah, and the subject members as well. And so, on this portion that I have, but I think I just have to cross out some.
Like it pertains to a separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just give me a second here,
Yeah.
and I'll just rectify that. And again, these are what I'm going to show you here is is just a suggestion about a possible informal resolution, and
for
you
sure.
can let me know if we can always tweak it or something too. Okay. All right. So here was my suggestion in relation to a possible informal resolution. If you want to read through it there.
So recommendation number 1, that Constable Chetwynd received direction from an immediate supervisor, Staff Sergeant C. Schaffner, Yarmouth Rural Detachment Commander, in regards to how to remain respectful during interactions with all clients during all investigations. Recommendation number 2, that Constable Chetwynd review the appropriate section of Part 7 of the Rcmp Act with respect to conduct expected of all members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And recommendation number 3, that both members review the relevant.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And that was where I made a mistake. I'll just put this subject member's name in there. All right.
So recommendation number 3, that Constable Chetwynd review the relevant literature respecting the CAPRA, Principle of Community Policing, and I'm going to ask you what CAPRA stands for.
So it's what they when someone goes through the RCMP Academy in Regina, one of the things that they talk about community policing, and the CAPRA model. Let me just pull it up here, and I can tell you, because I can't always remember exactly what in the RCMP we love acronyms.
Yeah. So, no, and that's why I was like, I'm not even gonna try. It's probably Canadian something. Like
I could probably.
Or it might even be cadet.
Yeah, I could probably get some of it, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't even.
So essentially, here I'll just show you. So C is clients, A is analysis, P partnership, R response, and A is assessment.
Okay.
So essentially, like the process that we normally go through when
scope.
Yeah, when we're dealing with any complaints or situations like that. So, trying to keep in mind, the nature of the complaint and your concerns that day, and I can safely say that even if you if you said no, I'd rather not this matter be resolved informally, and then which is totally your right, then the matter gets investigated formally, and then it's either the allegations or allegation, whichever it is either supported or unsupported. That's essentially what's
I know, and it's always unsupported.
Well, I found a few support. Maybe
I got choked out by what's his name? Boucher. Okay. In cells, in handcuffs. He stole my phone out of my hand and went through my phone on camera in the cells, and they said that he didn't do it. And that was Staff Sergeant Pittman that did that one.
Okay.
I have no faith in 95% of police officers are assholes to the general public.
How many?
95. Oh, absolutely. That are condescending, rude, talk down to you, talk as if you're less. There's about 4% that are two-faced, and about 1% that actually do their job. that are honest individuals.
We'll have to
And that's fine.
Agree to
That's
disagree
fine.
on the
That's
stats
fine.
anyway.
But
Yeah.
in my perspective,
in relation to yourself and
I've
I
dealt
can't
with
speak to
I've
that,
dealt
right?
with
So-
officers from Nova Scotia. I've dealt
Yeah.
with officers from Ontario. I've dealt with federal officers, RCMP,
Right.
and I've dealt with provincial officers in Halifax, and they're all the same.
Yeah,
They're all the same.
And you were the only one that could speak to that. I can't.
Yep,
I
yep.
can't speak
And that's
to
just
your-
how I feel about it.
Yep.
So
That's-
in regards to this,
Yep.
I think all these are great.
Yeah.
Right? I think they are.
Yep.
I've had 3 interactions with Chuck.
Right.
He's acted the same way in every single one of them. The first
Okay.
interaction, I spoke with Staff Sergeant Schaffner
Sure.
directly.
Yeah.
I talked to her. She said she was going to talk to me.
Mhm.
Right? The next time he comes over, he's acting the same way. I have videos of all this.
Right.
I even asked him, "Did you talk to Staff Sergeant Schaffner?" "Oh no, I didn't. I didn't." She's saying that she did talk to him because I called her back and asked her, and he's saying he didn't.
Right.
And then I make another complaint, and she says she's going to talk to him again. This is the 3rd time.
Right.
And he calls me stupid. He says he's better than me. Like, using this verbiage.
Mhm.
He laughs at me. He acts very rude. Very, very rude. Like, there's a way an individual talks to somebody, a normal, like, they're not laughing at them. They're not snickering at them. They're not
Sure.
demeaning them. They're not being condescending. Like, all of these things, just because I'm an asshole with a smile on,
Yeah.
doesn't make me nice.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I understand.
And it's the situation that Chetwynd has created for himself, that I've given him the opportunity through informals by calling his direct supervisors and speaking to
Right.
them, and they've tried to talk to him in the past. Or I believe Schaffner. I think she did her job.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
She seems like a very well-rounded officer, a good member of seniority. Like, I think she wants to do her job. She's a younger individual. She's fresh in the game. I think she's a very valuable member to have.
I can agree with you on that one.
But I think individuals like Chetwynd
Yeah.
create the disconnect.
Okay.
Because when I want something resolved, like if this informal thing, what happens when Chetwynd comes back to me and I've got emails saying that it was dealt with, and he's like, "Oh, it never happened. That never happened. You didn't get that done to me." That's improper again. Like, he can't admit to his own mistakes.
Yeah.
And he can't control himself.
And you know, it's totally up to you, Dryden, if you...
I want anything to do with Chetwynd
Yeah.
to go through.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just check off the not consenting then.
Because I want all of that to be on Chetwynd's record.
Sure.
I want it, even if it's not sustained, it'll still be there
Yep.
for people to see for 6 or 7 years or whatever. Because I'm sure that the records get destroyed at some point for this type of thing.
Yeah, they don't stay on the record for these types of things anyway. I'm not going to sign that one because that's me attesting to an informal resolution, so I'll leave that one blank. Okay,
And
so
that's my only reason for that one, is
and
because
that's-
I've tried. I've
Yeah.
tried with that individual officer multiple times in the past, and he has expressed that he hasn't learned anything from it, right? So it seems like the informal resolutions that I've tried to do in the past have been invaluable with that specific officer.
fair enough. That's totally your assessment, and you'll go with that. So this next one, I'm gonna look at the date. Why is the date there? Oh, I've got these pages in the wrong order. That's right. Just pull the right form page here. So this one, I just got the January 24th, and this would be the 2 members here. Here's the subject members,
Oh yeah.
Chetwynd and Pottie.
Yep.
And I'll let you read through
At the time, he was a
allegation.
constable.
Who's that?
Shane Pottie at the time was a constable.
Not at that time.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This because your allegation.
He must have not had his chevrons
He
on
may-
his
he may not have.
uniform yet, which is understandable.
Sure.
I get it. I was in cadets, man.
Sure.
I had to sew that shit on
Yeah.
and like have to rip it off because it wasn't in the right spot and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
they get
so.
pretty particular
yeah.
sometimes. So here's I listed out 2 allegations.
Yep.
And you have a read there. And
Okay,
see if you
so
think they sound
allegation
right.
number 1, on or about the 24th of January after Dominicus 2013 at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, that Corporal Pottie and Constable Chetwynd did display improper attitude towards Dryden Perry contrary to Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. Allegation number 2, on or about the 24th day of January after Dominicus, 2023, at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, that Corporal Pottie did demonstrate oppressive conduct towards Dryden Perry, contrary to Part 7 of the RCMP Act.
And I don't know if you remember, you do probably remember, this was the
incident where they showed up at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's just one day apart, these two.
Yeah, there was the next
right?
day they pulled me over.
And that's what that one's.
And that one should just be Pottie, I think, has the allegations in it. I might have listed Chetwynd as being there, but Pottie was the only one that interacted me with in
No,
that
you're
situation.
right. I just have Pottie on
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Okay. So does that sound accurate in relation to the January 24th?
I feel like
incident?
it doesn't describe what happened.
Okay. What do you think? What would be missing? What do you think?
Shane Pottie asked me if I wanted to fight him. He got out of his car.
Okay.
After getting in his car, when I went to take a picture of their license plate, Shane and Sean both blocked their license plate with their thumbs up. They're doing thumbs up. Their community caretaking function was over at the point that they had seen my child, they had seen me, they had spoken to all three of us. I had asked them multiple times to leave my property, to which they didn't leave my property. They just kept bantering on about my Honda 50 moped, stating that I was going to get a flat tire because I had a nail in my yard. I repeatedly asked them to leave my property. Once they did start to walk away, they very slowly left my property, and they stayed in my driveway bantering with me, stating that, you know, Sean was saying, Shane Chetwynd, Shane Pottie, sorry, their names, their first names are too close, and I refer to them by first names. Pottie got out of his car and asked me if I wanted to fight him, which I said, if that's what he wants to do, because he's the one that's providing the fighting words, not me, that's on him. I asked them to get off my property multiple times. They sat there, they laughed at me, they spoke to me over the loudspeaker while still on my property, and I think that's inappropriate, I think.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I do have the improper attitude down there. The other, just looking at the classification list here.
Like he threatened to fight me in my driveway.
Yeah, and that's why I have the oppressive conduct on there.
And then he hid his license plate. I was trying to identify them because I asked them for their names. They didn't identify. I asked for name and reg number like I did to you.
Yeah. How about irregularity and procedure?
I think that would fit.
That would fit?
I think that would fit.
Because I can just...
Because it's not procedural to ask somebody to fight them. Yeah, take your time.
No change for 44 Bravo 2. Sorry.
No, that's fine. They need to know where you're at, man.
Yeah.
They'll start worrying. They'll send the whole cavalry down.
Number 3. And I'll what I can do is specifically list the action there.
And the worst part about that interaction is I didn't film that interaction.
Okay.
I was dealing with my family, right? And I don't know if there's any in-car audio. I don't know any of that. So it's my word versus theirs. So I think this will go nowhere. Because last time it was my word versus theirs, they said their word was better than mine. Like with the Boucher incident.
Right.
With incidents in the past where, like, there was Devon Dalma. There was, like, Devon Dalma broke my rib while I was in handcuffs after they pulled me back out of a car that I was already in the back of, broke my rib, and then charged me with driving on a suspended license. During COVID, when my license was suspended by a medical reason, I got my note from the doctor, and the DMV was closed, so I couldn't do my road test. And he just kept pulling me over. Even Staff Sergeant Simpson was like, "This is getting a little bit ridiculous." Like, I have a permanently broken rib. It's rolled. If they do surgery on me, I have a 60% chance of getting an infection and dying. And they brought me to the hospital, and nothing ever came of it. Like, I feel like that's excessive force. I was in handcuffs in the back of a car. They opened the door, drugged me out, dogpiled on top of me to cut my shoelaces off of my work boots, which they did, and then never took my work boots off me and then threw me back in the car.
you said that one got...
Just said it was fine. They said it was fine. Like, I can show you, like, see that rip right there?
Right. Yeah,
That's rolled. That's 3 years old.
Yeah.
They ripped me out of my car, out of their car after being in handcuffs, right? They put me in the back. They opened the door, pulled me out. It was Olson. It was Bonia. It was Wall. It was Sarah. I don't know her last name. And it was Devrin Dalma. 5 or 6 of them. Dog piled on top of me after ripping me out of a car and broke my rib, kneeing me in the side and choking me with my sweater to pull a knife on me to cut my shoelaces off. That's it. They didn't even take my boots off. They just cut my shoelaces off and left the cut shoelaces in my boots. That was the reason. This is my complaint process, right?
Right. So have a read of that one and see if that one...
Allegations number 3. On or about the 24th day after Dominguez 2013 at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia that Corporal Pottie and Constable Chetwynd did display irregularity. I can't say that word.
Irregularity in procedure.
Okay. Yep.
I forgot.
In procedure by blocking the license plate of the police vehicle contrary to Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. Would that be them not identifying as well? Would that be a portion of that, or would that be for?
We can add one more.
Because I got their names from Staff Sergeant Schaffner when I called the detachment. Like, that's who identified them. They didn't identify themselves.
Let's see which one that would fit into.
Like, improper procedure.
It might just be another irregularity in procedure.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll just add it with that.
Yeah,
specific,
sure.
Oops, I forgot. Month of January.
And I know ever since the Portapic incident, it is a part of a policy that officers are supposed to identify with name and reg number when it's a lawful request. And an individual asking their name is obviously lawful because it's not illegal to ask somebody their name, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it a lawful request. And I know previous to the Portapic incident, there wasn't really a written policy that stated that officers had to identify because they're identifiable as themselves. But I think that situation really shone light on the whole thing of, like, just because an officer's wearing a uniform or driving a uniform police car, that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're an officer, right?
Exactly.
Like, we live in a different world. Mm-hmm. So I think the policies need to reflect that world that we live in instead of the 1980s policies that it does reflect.
Okay, so that's essentially sounds the same as the last one, except
just with the identification part.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope, that's fine. Do you want me to initial those or anything?
Hang on a second.
Just slap a big old one, bud?
Yeah, I forgot something here. I forgot some names in there. That's not good. Yeah, we'll have to that. I can type this out a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like even if you just put both members or something, like we...
Yeah, so, if you want to...
Yeah, I'll just...
Then that'll be good.
I'll give you that, so you can...
And then, again, I'll get you... That's just in relation to your complaint part, and if you dated for the 13th...
You're going to have to tell me every single thing.
What the heck is that going across? Just about the cross?
Oh, they've got foul up the road and all this stuff. They're free range and... They run the roost around here, I guess.
Okay, so in relation to this one, so there's 2 members on this complaint. You've already expressed on the last one.
So I probably won't go with an informal. I think let's look at the informal options first. Before I say anything, I want to at least see them.
They're essentially the same as what was
just more training, conversation with the officer,
and the reviewing. Where the heck is that?
Well, actually, you know what? Let's do a formal one. Let's do an informal on this, because then they're going to get the training regardless, even if the other one for Chetwynd, because Pottie, he's been a little. I have communication with Pottie a little bit. We've talked a bit more than me and Chetwynd. Chetwynd is very abrasive. I understand why he's a corps, or a constable and not a corps.
Gotcha.
So I think this way, where it includes Shane, let's go informal.
Okay. On both members?
On both the members, because Chetwynd already has a complaint that supersedes this one, that we're going formally, right? So it holds him accountable in both ways, so I know that at least he's going to get talked to.
Yep.
And that it's going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're okay with that for both of those guys on that one, okay?
Yep.
And, so if that's the case, I'll just get a signature there and there.
Yep.
That's for Pottie, and that's for Chetwynd, that one. And again, after this is the informal resolution items are addressed, then I attest to it, and then I'll contact you and let you know.
Now, is there any paperwork that's associated with that? Like, could I get a form stating that, like, signed by Sean or Shane saying that they did do that?
Let me know. Let me check on
that.
Yeah.
Just for my records, right? Just as security, because if he signs a piece of paper, right, and then he comes back to me the next time and he's still acting the same way, and I have that, well, I have a leg to stand on, right?
I'll check in that and see what I can
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
And then so this last one that we haven't dealt with yet is just in relation to Pottie.
Yes.
And it was for the following day, right after
that
last
incident.
And so I'll let you read through those 2 there.
So allegation number 1, on or about the 25th day of January 2023 at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, that Corporal Pottie did display improper attitudes toward Dryden Perry contrary to Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. Allegation number 2, on or about the 25th day of January after Dominicus 2013 at or near Dayton in the province of Nova Scotia, that Corporal Pottie did demonstrate oppressive conduct towards Dryden Perry contrary to Part 7 of the Rcmp Act. It was in Yarmouth. It was in Yarmouth.
Let me change that then. Both allegations?
Yes. Yeah. The interaction that I had happened on that side street that kind of loops around to the superstore.
Right.
That comes from like Pleasant or whatever. I'm not sure if you're super familiar with the area.
A little initial there would be good.
Once again, I guess it doesn't really include what happened, right? Like
no, but I did read through your
because he pulled me over for the previous day. Him and Chetwynd had stated that they were going to pull me over.
And then he did.
I told them,
and that's why I included that oppressive conduct.
Like I told them, and I showed them that my vehicle was within compliance to all of regulations for Nova Scotia law, and permitting, and that the DMV wouldn't even permit my bike, even if I tried. And they pulled me over, stating that at first he stated that he didn't see my headlight, which I said was kind of troubling in itself because it's a light on the front of a vehicle at night. It's pretty obvious.
Right.
And then he pulled over, came out, said he stopped me because he didn't see my light, and then I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then he said, well, it was your tail lights. And then he looked at my bike and he was like, I want to make sure that your bike's 50cc, even though he was staring at it the day before. And it was what's the word? It was a targeted situation. He knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly what bike I was pulling over. And what I would like to hear is when the lights are turned on, when your emergency overhead lights are turned on, does your in-car audio start recording?
No, it doesn't.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So
Because I would like to know the mindset of Chetwynd and Pottie when they saw me. Because they'd be like, there he is, you know, let's get him. Because they whipped right around and pulled me right over. And I pulled over, I turned my bike off, I stepped off my bike. I told Chetwynd, I was like, you're making a mistake. Or Pottie, sorry, because Pottie was the only individual that came out of the vehicle. The only reason I know that Chetwynd was there is because I could see him in the passenger seat.
Right.
But obviously, I think that there was some sort of communication between that, because why would they just whip around and pull me over, right? Like, they know it was me, they told me they were going to do it, even if it was lawful or not, the day before, and they did. And they actually made it, and the weirdest part about that whole situation is I called Schaffner the next morning, because it was like almost 9 o'clock, right?
Okay.
Apparently she was working that evening. They went right from that stop to the detachment to tell her. That seems slimy to me. If you didn't do anything wrong, why? Do you do that for every stop?
No, I might if I had a incident that I was involved in, and I suspected I was going to get a public complaint out of it.
But he told her it was they pulled me over for a different reason, even than that, right? There was like 4 different reasons why I got pulled over. It was like no headlight, no tail light, wanting to check out if my bike was legal, and then to them they thought to Schaffner they told her they thought my bike was a dirt bike.
And that bike you're referencing, it's like a motorcycle with a...
It's a 1980s Honda 50 PA. So what it is, it's a moped that is pedal driven. Right. It's pedal start. It doesn't have electric start. The wheels are lower than whatever size. Yeah. It's 49 cc or below.
It's under 50 cc's. Right?
Yeah. And they had inspected my vehicle the day before.
Right.
And we had a conversation about it when I was asking them to leave my property, right? They were sitting there bantering about my bike. Remember I was saying, like, they were saying I was going to get a flat tire, and that was in broad daylight. They knew everything about my bike. They knew the style of my bike. They knew what it was, the CCs involved, the legality involved. They had all that information prior to that. It was a targeted stop.
Okay. So in this particular allegation is since Chetwynd didn't get out of the vehicle and have any interactions with you, this one's just in relation to Corporal Pottie.
Yes, that's correct. Like I said, the only reason I listed Chetwynd in the complaint is because it says all other individuals present, right? Gotcha. So, and I knew he was present.
And that's why I think I only put the allegation, the subject employee as Pottie on this one. Yeah. So with those 2 allegations, do you think that sets out, and I think that this here, demonstrated oppressive conduct, would cover that targeting?
Yeah, I would think so. I think it's such a broad.
It is a broad.
And I think that's the reason it's written that way, so it can cover a multitude, right? So you're not pinpointing everything, and then when it comes down to it, it's like, well, that doesn't fit, so we're gonna throw it out, right? No, so it's a catch-all. I agree. Okay. I think that it would.
If that sounds good, then I'll get your signature on that one.
My signature's crazy.
No, that's all right. I got one of those there too. You sign it. I signed them so many times that I had to just kind of make it a little
figure one out.
Yeah. Okay, so I did have essentially the same. In respect to an informal resolution, I did have a similar number of allegations or recommendations, but I did add. Just while you were talking, I added one more.
Yeah.
So you can have a read of that last one because you've read the other ones already.
Yeah. Okay. I've read these ones up here.
Yeah, they're essentially the same.
Okay,
as the
so
last
that Corporal Pottie read the relevant section of the Motor Vehicle Act. Respecting motor-driven bicycles under 50cc engine size. Is that how you read it? Okay.
That's kind of how I wrote it. I don't know if it's the...
No, that works for me. It gets the point across, and I think it's more of a reminder to you, because obviously, like, when you're talking it, like, you're probably not going to read it verbatim, and that's it, right? Like, you're going to have a conversation about it and things like that.
Yeah. You think of anything else that you would want to add in that circumstance in relation to the...
No.
No, you think that's...
No, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Now, how do you feel? Do you in this particular one regarding the subject member, are you?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah,
right now, actually. Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
For sure.
I've never made a sustained complaint against Sean or Shane.
Corporal Pottie.
Yeah, right. I've never made a sustained complaint against him.
I know. When I think, how was your last interaction with him?
Not the greatest.
No.
Condescending, laughing at me. He told me he doesn't like dealing with people like me because I was filming.
But was there anything more recent than that?
This was like 2 months ago.
Okay, all
right. He told me that he was going to meet with me to have a conversation in public. I've been waiting 6 months for that. That was a part of the informal.
Okay.
That I agreed with Schaffner when I spoke with her. That's never happened.
Was that something you'd be interested in still?
I'd love it.
In relation to this?
I don't want him to be on duty when he does it.
Or how about if I'm present at the time?
I just don't...
Have that conversation.
It bothers me that I have to take time out of my day to go speak to an individual who is getting paid by me.
I see.
For a complaint that I have against them. That bothers me. It bothers me.
Right.
Like, it's always a monetary thing. They only want to do it if it's... Like, nobody actually cares about community policing. Because if you did, you'd come and talk to me.
Some people do.
Exactly. I agree. But there's a large portion that don't. Right? That are in it for the paycheck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I'd have a conversation with you and him, for sure.
Okay. All right.
In a setting that I can record it. I won't get your face.
Yeah.
I'll do the same as I'm doing right now. I'll record myself.
Sure.
Right? In our conversation. Unless Pottie's comfortable with me recording him as well. And
why don't I talk to him, and do you want to wait on this one? Not make your decision yet, or
I would like to wait on this one.
Yep, that's fine.
And then maybe in a week's time or something, I can come to town or something, and if I just, because at this point we've already gone over it, so all I have to do is sign. Right? So I could do it at the window.
Sure.
Right?
Yep, for sure.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be with you. Unless you're the bearer of the record, you know, I don't know if anybody else is allowed to take the record or not.
Yeah.
But either way, however it works,
And at the same time, too, I don't mind meeting you wherever it's more...
You know what? No, let's go informal, and I want to have a meeting with him and you.
Okay.
A conversation. Let's do that.
Why don't I add that in here?
I've never made a formal complaint against Pottie as of yet.
Okay.
And I think that he is approachable. He has tried in the past. He does speak to me in a slightly nice way, but it's all after the fact. It's very condescending, and it's the whole blue line situation and the Zimbardo effect. Like, we have individuals who perceive power, and they're with other people that perceive power, so they're the best in the gang.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm familiar with.
Like,
that.
I'm very well versed in all of this.
You sound like you are.
Yeah. And that's why it bothers me when Chetwynd says I'm stupid, right? Well, Chetwynd, the basic requirements for entry for the Rcmp are being 18 and have a driver's license and a high school diploma.
Yeah.
It's 28 weeks of depot. Yeah. I went to college for 2 years. You know, I have my grade 12. I have all of this. I'm not stupid. I'm not calling you stupid. So stop demeaning me.
Yeah.
Like, my job, you talk about dangerous jobs, I'm a carpenter. My job's number 2. Your guys' aren't even on the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? So don't talk to me about safety. Don't talk to me about that. When I wake up, the first 5 minutes of my job are more dangerous than your first month of your job. And that's statistically by the government of Canada proven.
Yeah.
Right? So don't sit there and think you're better than me. Just because maybe you have a government job and you have benefits and you can carry a gun doesn't make you better than me. Yeah. You're a public servant.
That's right.
Like, if you don't want to serve the public, I'm sure Walmart or McDonald's or some private entity would love to have you.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people do forget that, for sure. So what I did, recommendation number 5, I just kept it really simple. The Corporal Pottie meet with Dryden Perry to discuss complaint in the presence of the investigation.
And can we put, like, in a timely fashion?
I'll make sure it's
because like I said, it's been like 6 months, right? That I've been trying to figure this out with them. And the last time I asked him, I was like, "So when are we gonna meet? Like, why haven't we met yet?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. Why haven't we?" And I was like, "You tell me. Like, you're the one with the schedule.
Why don't we try to get it done before the new year?"
Sure.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And even if it doesn't work out, as long as we got something scheduled and it's it's gonna pan out,
and so
I think that's fine.
Is I'll just keep touch via email and throw out some possible dates, and then we can come to you so that you're not being inconvenienced.
Yeah, sure. That works for me. That works for me. So I'll sign this for you.
Sure.
And then
I'll follow up, and next thing you'll get from me is an email with some possible dates.
Yeah, and then we'll confirm those.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yep. That sounds perfect to me.
Sorry.
Like, I'm sure if you look up my name, I have some sort of thing that comes up that I'm a police, whatever, I hate cops. Yeah, I don't at all.
No, you don't. Yeah, I'm not getting that impression.
I dislike the institution of policing that allows for bad policing.
And I concur with you on that one.
You know what I mean?
I don't like it when we when a fellow officers don't act in an appropriate manner.
Right.
Because it reflects badly on all
Exactly. It reflects poorly on you as well, right? And the whole department as a whole. Exactly. And like public trust is at an all-time low. Like we know this statistically. Like the government, they do censuses on this thing, right? And this information is publicly available. It's at an all-time low. You guys are short-staffed because nobody wants to go work for you guys because of and it's not because people are just like, I don't want to be a cop. It's because of the perception that they have of being a police officer. You have to be a specific person, right? You have to be that asshole. You have to be that person, right? That's what the general public looks at, right? It's different when you go to Defo and you learn different things, right? Like, obviously, I've never done the training. I don't know how to do the job. I can't put myself in those shoes. But as a citizen who looks out, who is expected to be knowledgeable of the law, I do have a perspective.
Well, there's a certain expectation that the public has for us as police officers, and it's not an unreasonable expectation.
Exactly.
You have to go about your duties in a respectful.
Well, it says right on the Rcmp website, on and off duty.
Exactly.
Right. All the time. All the time. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're.
And as a police officer, you're held to a higher standard.
Exactly. And it seems like we say that it's nice to say that, but it seems like they're not.
Yeah, and I agree. There are some.
There was that guy. There was that officer who ran off the road by the hospital, slammed into a telephone pole, wrecked a whole car, and he said it was because there was a building that got tore down, and it surprised him, so he wasn't paying attention to the road. He could have killed people, right? There's officers that drive super fast through town just to go to a nothing call, right? Just because they're gung-ho, right? That doesn't promote public safety. Driving 100 through a residential neighborhood just because you got a noise complaint call. Yeah. It's not.
No, you have to. Your how you respond to a complaint has to be commensurate with the type of complaint.
Exactly. Like, I've had my license taken from me illegally by McDonald and not given back, and then when I literally on the back of my form it said he shouldn't have taken my license, so I call them, and him and Officer Lord come ripping through my neighborhood on Porter Street, going about 120 up my road. And slam on the brake, give me my license, make a complaint about that, unsustained. And you want to know why it was unsustained? Because Staff Sergeant Pittman waited 2 years to look into the complaint, and they didn't have the GPS records anymore.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they couldn't prove it. It was my word versus theirs, and their word's better than mine. Right?
No, we have to, as investigators in relation to these types of situations, we have to give them, because the public, if we don't give them the right weight, the public is going to lose confidence, or even more confidence than they've lost.
And like we look at, if you look at the Rcmp as a whole, like, clearly there's problems within the Rcmp, because if there wasn't, 2 or 3 years ago, there wouldn't have been a $350 million class action lawsuit for internal sexual harassment, bullying, harassment. So if you guys are bullying yourselves that much, how much are you bullying the people that you think you're above? Because we know that through the Stanford prison experiment, it doesn't specifically say American police, Canadian police, European police. It says individuals with power, right? Because it wasn't even a police situation. It was a jail guard situation. It was a correctional officer situation. Right. So we know that power corrupts indefinitely, or it has the potential to corrupt indefinitely. So we need to have the strong-minded individuals. But when you come to the application process doesn't really foster strong-minded individuals. It fosters individuals who don't know what to do with their lives, that are coming out of high school, that have the basic requirements, that want to feel fulfilled, and maybe they don't want to go away to the military. So they pick police, they pick law enforcement. And then we have individuals who aren't prepared emotionally for this situation to handle that amount of control and power that's been bestowed upon them. And then they act in a way that is unlawful towards the citizens, but because the agency is so understaffed, the agency doesn't want to get rid of them, because then there's less people on the road, and then that to them is a perceived public safety risk, right?
And personally, I would rather go shorter than
have a bunch of bad cops.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, because you are still going to be safer. You will. Because how many calls do you actually go out to where somebody's like a domestic, one of the most dangerous calls you can go on, right? Sure, if you want to scream and yell at the guy, he's probably going to be mad at you, right? But if you want to de-escalate the situation and try to understand, because the role should be understanding first, and I think it is to listen, not talk. To listen to my situation, because you're just doing your job, right? But this might be the worst day of my life.
Yes, exactly.
This is the turning point. This depends on my job. This depends on my freedom. This depends on my family. This depends on more than just a paycheck that I'm going to get at the end of the week, or a 12-hour shift, right?
And that subject or that person you're dealing with may be going, suffering through a mental health crisis.
Exactly, a mental health crisis. And we've seen in the past that police officers tend to resort to force instead of resorting to other means, right? And it's like, it seems like that officers want to do it, like they're excited for it. Like it's like if you were in the military and you were just issued your firearm and you went on deployment, you're excited to shoot it, right? You want to shoot it because that's what you've been trained for. You're like a dog ready to catch a ball, right? And that's the same thing with me. Like, I show up to a construction site and I got my nail gun in my hand and there's studs, man. I want to get them nailed. Like, it ain't, and it's normal. It's across every single career, every single board. And it's just, they happen to be in a situation where their job leads to violence.
Potentially.
And they're really the one, because they're in control of the situation.
And when you're in a position where you're you have the authority to curtail somebody's liberties, you have to be very cognizant of how you yield that power. And some people, like you said, can effectively manage that, and some not. So,
and if you don't effectively manage it, you abuse it, right? You abuse your power.
You usually hear about or read about. And,
And like, where the media and social media and things are becoming so much more prevalent that it's not like back in the 90s when cops could pretty much just do anything and it's their word versus another. There's video cameras everywhere. Like, it's not just the one in my hand, right? Like, we're on video here. We're on CCTV right now. You walk down the road and how many Ring doorbells you get caught on, right? So we're coming into an age where we all thought that policing was exactly what we thought it should be, but now we're able to see that it's not.
And then also, you talk about videos that, they keep testing these body-worn cameras, but that's going to become, before long, it's going to become a part of your uniform as well.
It should. And you look at, we take what's the word I'm looking for? We take notes from the U.S. a lot of times because they're our closest neighbor, right? They've got a larger population than us. So we do take notes from them as well as the UK. So once we have body-worn cameras, are we going to be able to mute them? Are we going to be able to turn them off? What's going to be the policies for them? Because we've seen in the past that officers mute their body cameras, and at very key points of where they're discussing things, where they're talking about things, and it's to lean in their favor. It's not to lean in the victim's favor or the arrestee's favor, right?
Hopefully, whatever operational policies they come up with respect to those body-worn cameras, they take those important things into consideration too.
I think they should. Because it just turns into like another excuse for an officer to get off of a thing, right? Like to go into court and like say I get arrested today, like you arrest me right now, you know, I'll be in court in 3 months tops, and it'll be done, right? I'll be convicted, be on probation or whatever the outcome is. But with a police officer, if they get arrested 3 years down the road, they might be going to court with no evidence because the agency won't provide any evidence and they want it all subpoenaed. But then as soon as it's evidence against me, it's everything I say can and will be used against me.
And it should be the same standard. And it
absolutely
is.
Like
the you were just talking about I lost my train of thought.
Like Boucher. I'll give you an example of Boucher and an abuse of power. When he arrested me for harassing communications, which was dropped by the courts, he arrested me and he was swearing at me, he was cursing at me, and he was telling me I was getting what I deserved. Right? I'm getting what I deserved. I looked at him and said, Boucher, I'm innocent until proven guilty, am I not? So don't I deserve fair treatment?
Yeah, everybody has that premise.
But I was getting what he thought I deserved, right? That's not his job.
And then that's where you talked about earlier about just, you know,
that was the same day he choked me out in the cells.
But, you know, some officers, you know...
push it.
Yeah,
push it.
Exactly. So.
And he's a senior officer. Boucher's been around for a long time.
And I can't speak to that whole situation,
of course not.
Obviously, because I wasn't present and not aware of that situation.
But it's just I wish sometimes, like when I say these things in these type of conversations that I have, if I was a police officer, and I've looked into it, I just don't think I can because I have a criminal record. If I was a police officer and someone said this to me, I would probably go to the detachment and I would look into it myself. Right? Because it's I reported a crime. Right? The guy choked me, right, from behind. He went through my phone. He told me I was getting what I deserved while in custody. He's not the judge. He's not the jury. He's not the executioner. Right?
And
like
you said you made a complaint on that.
Yeah, and then it came back from Pittman that he did nothing. And I appealed it, and I'm still waiting on the appeals process.
Okay, so that one's still getting looked into.
Yep. And that's been months. I haven't heard nothing back on the appeals process.
Did they give you updates?
Nope.
No? Nothing. If you wanted an update, would they give you?
I don't even know who to get a hold of.
I would imagine it's probably through the same.
I did it online, right?
Yeah, through the same website, you might be able to request an update.
Yeah, maybe. I just never really looked into it. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it. But yeah, and this is super old at this point. Like, and the jail guard who I had a sustained complaint against the commissionaires. Whenever I'm in cells, they never check on me. They don't talk to me. They completely ignore me. And I called up Jeanette, the head lady in Halifax for the commissionaires. She made the 2 commissionaires do 40 hours of training because they're supposed to check on me every 30 minutes. They're supposed to answer my questions. They're supposed to, like, that's actually their job. Like, if I talk to them, they're supposed to talk to them. That's their job.
All right. I'm probably gonna have to.
Yeah, no. If you need to head out.
Yeah. So I will. So just to recap, we got 1 formal, 3 informals, and I will let you know as far as a meeting.
Yep, perfect. Right. I really appreciate your time. I really do.
And nice to meet you, Drew.
Well, it was nice meeting you as well. And if you ever need anything else, you know how to get a hold of me. And you can we'll meet up, and I'll make my best effort to try and meet you as well. It's just with my licensing situation, it's very difficult for me right now. So.
Yeah, 10